I'm Andrea, and this is my Catholic Witness. I am living in Portland, Oregon, and I'm married to Sean, and I have two wonderful children, a 3-year-old named Poppy and a 9-month-old named Julian. So I grew up with two younger sisters and in a very strong Catholic household. For us, faith was as much a part of life as breathing and eating. We didn't separate living from faith, they were intertwined with each other. So we would pray throughout the course of the day together. We would sing songs that had to do with our beliefs and our Catholic heritage. And those were just as much a part of learning about our family history as learning our church history. So we lived and breathed our Catholic faith. Faith was always important in my life from the time I was in utero. I always knew it was important. I would pray, I would rely on God for inspiration, for guidance, to lean on for support at times, all growing up. And that was just second nature to me. It wasn't really until maybe around high school that I started really taking into consideration what it was that it meant to be Catholic. And I remember when I was confirmed as a 10th grader, that's when it really became very real to me. I was very much involved in social justice and serving the poor. My sister Ashley and I went on a lot of retreats down in Tijuana in Mexico, and we did a lot of service work because that was something that was very important to us, and we felt very much called to do it as Catholics and just as people. My faith just took off in college, and what had been very much a family-oriented religion for me all through high school, from when I was born through high school, became my own really when I was in college, because that was my first time going to church on my own with my friends, without my family. It was my first time taking on the faith and the responsibility of learning about faith and learning about what it was that I believed in about our church history, was in college. And I got to take a lot of really amazing classes, biblical studies, and just a lot of classes that helped to give me a lot of the history and the background to just continue to build my knowledge and understanding of my faith. Our family was very strong in our Catholic belief, and the reason why my immediate family was so strong was because of my mother and father, and both as individuals as well as a couple, building the foundation of Catholicism within our family. And the fact that Catholicism was very real and alive in our family. It wasn't something we did on Sundays and then went home and had a completely different life. We lived each day what it was that we believed, and our parents were the ones who modeled that for us on a daily basis. So my mother and father were instrumental in that. My uncle Steve was very big in my very impressionable days as an adolescent. I led a lot of retreats. I did a lot of service work with him, and he would bring my sister Ashley and myself on a lot of different things with him. And so he was very, very important in helping to transition me from childhood faith to adult understanding and ownership of faith. So he was big there. And then my sisters have been very important in helping to discuss and challenge my beliefs at times, or my ideas. And so that's been good because we've helped each other grow stronger. And then in college, I had resident ministers, I had university ministers, I had friends that were very important in, again, helping me shape and grow as well. When I was growing up and I went through the sacraments, baptism, reconciliation, First Communion, confirmation, matrimony, they were all very important for me. I think internalizing the sacraments became even more important to me when my two children, were baptized. I think that was one of the most beautiful moments of my life, was being there for Penelope's baptism and then for Julian's baptism, and professing faith for them and with them, and knowing that they were being welcomed fully into the Catholic family, the Christian family. And that was very exciting for me and exciting for our family that they got to go through that. But just understanding this heritage and tradition that was so important, and beliefs that are so important to me, being able to be passed on, and embracing my two children. So the sacrament, I would say, of baptism was really, really especially beautiful, especially going through it with my two little ones. It allowed me to internalize what baptism really is. I mean, because I was baptized as an infant, and so I was so young, to be able to, and I had seen so many people be baptized at Easter vigils and family members and at different masses. I've been to so many baptisms, and so I was experiencing it throughout the course of my life, but being able to see my two children so fully embraced and celebrated in our Catholic tradition, through the sacrament of baptism, starting on their faith journey, it took my understanding to a whole new level. It really did. And it allowed me to also appreciate what our parents did for us all the more, because they made sure that that was a part of our lives, as I plan on doing for our children. So I am married. I was able to experience and celebrate the sacrament of matrimony with my dear husband, Sean. When I was younger, in high school and through college, I was very open to wherever God called me, whatever my purpose would be, whatever my vocation would be. And I very strongly considered becoming a sister for a while, actually. And part of me always wondered if I would get married and have a family, because ever since I was tiny, I wanted to have my own children. But I also knew that if God called me to be a sister, I would have children in a much larger sense, and I would feel called to bring that love and care to many, many people. So I would have that need fed in a way that God would be able to help that need be fed. But I didn't know which way God directed me. I prayed a lot. I took a pledge when I was in middle school to wait until marriage to be intimate with somebody. And from that point on, I very strongly prayed for whatever my vocation would be. If I were to get married, I prayed for my future spouse. And if I were to enter, become a sister, I prayed that God would just guide me in whatever direction it was that I was meant to go. And I followed where I felt I was being directed all throughout my life. And in the process of following that, I met Sean, and it became very clear that I fell in love with Sean very quickly, and I knew that that was the way that God was directing me. And I knew that there were going to be obstacles because of our different backgrounds and our different beliefs, but God has been incredible in helping us through a lot of those. Sean is not Catholic. He is agnostic, so he's searching for his belief and he's searching for truth. So for us, our vocation, my vocation is marriage, but it's taken on, I mean, it has its struggles not being married to someone who isn't Catholic, but it's also, he's incredibly supportive. Sean goes to church with us every Sunday. He prays with us before every meal. He loves being able to have the commitment and the experience of raising our family Catholic. He believes in that's what we're doing.
Has being a mother affected your relationship with God at all, or your relationship with the church?
It has. I think when it was just me, or when it was me and Sean, faith was always important. It was always present. It was always important to me. But having children makes it so much, it makes an understanding and practice of faith so much more crucial and at the front of your mind than it ever was before, because it's beyond me now. It's the lives of my children are, I mean, they're at this stage when they're so young, they're so open and so innocent and so willing to learn. And my role as a Catholic mother is to help guide them as much as I possibly can and show them the love of God and show them our Catholic heritage and teach them about all of these things. And it just makes it, I mean, while it's always been important to me, I want to learn more now, and I'm seeking more answers now because I want to be able to share those as much as possible with my children, especially as they get older, because as I said, it's beyond just myself. There's a bigger mission at play than there was before. So I did Teach for America. After I graduated from college, I did Teach for America, and I was placed in Baltimore, Maryland, and so I was teaching in a school system that struggled, was really struggling, and it was the city of Baltimore. At times, it really feels as if there isn't a lot of hope, and a lot of that is just because of how things have been socially, politically, for so many years, generations upon generations. So it's understandable why there are people who don't feel hope. But being in that sort of situation for so long, I mean, for the years that I was there for 5 years. And during that time, my faith was challenged in ways that it had never been challenged before. Up till that point, I had experienced working with people in poverty. I had experienced working with people who hadn't been given very much, but usually when I would work with those communities, there was still an element of faith, there was still a joy, there was still an element of hope, despite the fact that there was such poverty. And so it was neat because I felt a connection with people right away, and I felt like we were building something together from the very first moment that I would go to places like this. But going to Baltimore and teaching in areas that were really just struggling, I felt my faith and my own competence at times challenged on a daily basis. And I would go home sobbing on a fairly daily basis because it felt as if there was nothing I can do, and I was failing day after day after day. No matter what I would try and do, my students were still struggling, were still frustrated with how life was. They were still, I wasn't making the difference I wanted to make. And in the process of all of that, I struggled with my faith because I just kept thinking, how can this be? How can I have been born into such a beautiful, strong, supportive family with so many resources and so many opportunities at my fingertips, when I had so many students who didn't have all of those. They weren't born into such privilege as I was born into, and I really struggled with that. But it was interesting because while I struggled and while there were times that I couldn't see how God fit in at times in my own mind, looking back on it, God was always there. God gave me hope every day to continue in the mission that I was working in. I had friends that were giving up at times. I tried to keep an air of positivity and of love for my students. And a big part of the reason why I was able to maintain that truly was by the grace of God, because I look back on it now and I don't know how now I was able to go through the experience I did. And I truly believe that part of it was the friends that I had, but a huge part of it was God supporting me throughout it, because that was my purpose. At that point, my purpose was to give as much as I possibly could give to my students and their families. And God had directed me there, and God gave me the strength to continue working through in that situation when I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. I truly don't believe I would have been able to. I felt a better holistic understanding of God. I think up until that point, my understanding of God was a little simpler, and seeing the complexity of humanity and how God continually works within that complexity of the structure we have built as humans, we have built this complex structure that at times really can hurt people, and there are people who get lost in the shuffle of the structure we've created. God is still ever present and working in and amongst that and helping and loving through just all the possible means that God could possibly find in ways that we can't even understand. And so I think my understanding and my faith in God is deeper, but it's also much richer than it could have been before. One of my favorite yearly experiences that we did as a family growing up, and that I love continuing to do when I'm able each year, is going to the Easter Vigil Mass. I love it's steeped in tradition. You have all the readings that build our heritage and who we are as a people, as a Catholic people. In the readings, you have these hymns that are thoughtful and celebratory. You have people coming in and becoming part of the Catholic community, the rich Catholic community around us. You have everybody so happy and excited because we're welcoming in all these new people. You have the blessing of the Easter candle. There's so much that happens, and it's so exciting. It was always some of my favorite times of being Catholic all growing up, was going to the Easter Vigil and altar serving at the Easter Vigil and then lecturing at the Easter Vigil. And it's just, I love being a part of that. That's one of my favorite customs and traditions within our Catholic faith.
Yeah, I wish everyone would go to the Easter Vigil.
I know. I think if more people went to Easter Vigil, there'd be a better understanding of who we are as a Catholic people and more of a joy of being Catholic. Because after, I remember at St. Bonaventure growing up, and whenever anybody would be baptized, the whole church, we'd all start singing and we'd be clapping, and there's this energy and excitement about being Catholic and about welcoming in new Catholics. And it's one of those experiences everybody should have at least once, and ideally more than once. Ideally, especially for families, especially with children, to have that as a yearly piece. It's amazing. And I remember, like when we were really little, we'd bring our blankets and we would cuddle up in the pew if we ended up falling asleep because of, the hours that we were there and how late it was. But as we got older, it was so exciting. I would want the world to really zero in on the fact that we are about love. Catholicism is about love because God is love. And I think if we remembered as people, as human beings, that love should be at the forefront of our mind, I think that we would enter interactions with other people and with everything around us with a little bit more of a sense of peace, and we'd be more outwardly loving, overtly loving towards others. And I think that would show the rest of the world what we really are. It would show that we are loving and that we are love. Some of the most charismatic people that I've met within our faith are abundantly brimming over in love. And I think that would be, for me, that's the thing that I want the world to be able to recognize and see is that God is love, and that hopefully we are bringing love into our daily actions.